Welcome back to this new edition of News Today. Without delay, let's dive into the current news landscape. The Inter-Services Organizations Command, Control and Discipline Act 2023 has been officially brought into force. The United Nations General Assembly has passed a resolution calling upon the Security Council to admit Palestine as a member of the United Nations. New mRNA vaccine for brain cancer triggers a strong immune response. Air pollution is currently posing threat to Sundarban Mangrove ecosystem. The Indian Council of Medical Research has released 17 dietary guidelines for Indians. A report on international forest governance has been released. Starting with the very first news. The Inter-Services Organizations Command, Control and Discipline Act 2023 has been officially brought into force. This act seeks to empower the Commander-in-Chief or CIC and the Officer-in-Command or OIC of what are known as the Inter-Services Organizations or ISOs with all disciplinary and administrative powers over the serving or attached personnel. But what exactly is an ISO, you might ask? Well, an ISO is a body of troops that includes a Joint Services Command consisting of individuals who are subject to the Air Force Act of 1950, the Army Act of 1950, or the Navy Act of 1957, or any two of these acts. Now, the interesting part is that currently the CICs or OICs of ISOs are not empowered to exercise disciplinary or administrative powers over the personnel belonging to other services. This act aims to change that. So let's delve into the key highlights of this act. First and foremost, the central government now has the authority to constitute an ISO with personnel belonging to at least two of the three services, Army, Navy or Air Force. In the existing ISOs, like the Andaman and Nicobar Command, the Defence Space Agency and the National Defence Academy will be deemed to have been constituted under this very act. Moving on, the act provides for a commanding officer or CO to command a unit, ship or establishment, and this CO can initiate all disciplinary or administrative actions over the personnel under their command. But wait, there's more. The applicability of this act extends not only to all personnel of the Army, Navy and Air Force, but also to individuals from other forces as notified by the central government. Now you might be wondering, why is this act so significant? It aims to expedite the disposal of cases, avoid multiple proceedings, reduce financial burdens and most importantly, promote greater integration and jointness among the armed forces.
In another news, the United Nations General Assembly has passed a resolution calling upon Security Council to admit Palestine as a member of the United Nations. Although the resolution does not automatically grant Palestine full membership, it recognizes its eligibility to join the United Nations. India, aligning with its long-standing support for the Palestinian cause, voted in favor for this resolution. However, the process for admitting new members to the United Nations is a multi-step procedure. It begins with the prospective state accepting the UN Charter commitments by submitting an application to the Secretary General. Subsequently, the UNSC must recommend the admission by garnering affirmative votes for 9 out of 15 members, without any vetoes from the 5 permanent members, that is, China, France, Russia, UK and the US. If the Security Council recommends the admission, the final step involves a 2/3 majority vote in the UNGA for the new state's membership to become effective upon the adoption of the resolution. If we talk about the historical context of India-Palestine relations, India was the first non-Arab state to recognize the Palestine Liberation Organization as the sole and legitimate representative of the Palestinian people in 1974. Furthermore, India was among the first countries to recognize the state of Palestine in 1988. However, India's relations with Palestine are also influenced by its ties with Israel. In the second decade of the 21st century, India began pursuing a policy of de-hyphenation in its foreign relations. Now let's understand the de-hyphenation foreign policy. This policy involves dealing with two countries with adversarial relationships independently, without allowing one relation to impact the other. It has allowed India to leverage and capitalize on its position in areas such as defense, energy security and trade, while maintaining strong relationships with both Palestine and Israel. In conclusion, the UNGA resolution calling for Palestine's admission to the UN represents a significant step forward in the long-standing quest for Palestinian statehood. In our next news, the new mRNA vaccine for brain cancer triggers a strong immune response. The vaccine, developed by the scientists at University of Florida in its first ever human clinical trial, quickly reprogrammed the immune system to glioblastoma, which is the most aggressive and lethal brain tumor. Treating brain cancers has long been a challenging endeavor due to the poor response to chemotherapy, debilitating side effects from radiotherapy, and the limitations of surgical interventions. But what exactly are mRNA vaccines? mRNA, or messenger ribonucleic acid, is a genetic molecule that contains instructions or a recipe that directs cells to produce a specific protein using their natural machinery. In the case of this vaccine, the mRNA is encapsulated in lipid nanoparticles and delivered into the body, prompting the production of proteins that match parts of the pathogen called antigens. Transitioning to the mechanism of action, the immune system recognizes these foreign antigens as invaders, dispatching defenders called antibodies and T cells. This process effectively trains the immune system to mount a robust response against potential future attacks from the targeted pathogen. While mRNA vaccines represent a cutting-edge technology, other vaccine platforms have been developed and employed over the years. These include live attenuated vaccines, which contain weakened live pathogens from bacteria or viruses, such as measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine. Inactivated vaccines like the polio vaccine use deactivated live pathogens to create immunity without causing disease. Additionally, viral vector vaccines utilize harmless viruses to deliver genetic code to host cells, as seen in the Ebola vaccine. Subunit vaccines, on the other hand, are made from a pathogen piece, excluding live pathogens, and can be produced from the original pathogen or recombinantly, as in the case of pneumococcal vaccines. In conclusion, the development of this new mRNA vaccine for brain cancer represents a significant breakthrough in the fight against one of the most formidable forms of cancer.
Air pollution is currently posing threat to Sundarban Mangrove ecosystem. This threat was highlighted in a study conducted by the Bose Institute, Kolkata, and the IIT Kanpur. The key findings of the study reveal that the primary sources of air pollution affecting the Sundarbans are pollutants enriched with black carbon from Kolkata and the Indo-Gangetic Plain, coupled with localized sources such as biomass burning. Alarmingly, these pollutants, particularly the acidic components of PM2.5 pollutants with heavy metals, are fostering the generation of reactive oxygenated species, or ROS, posing a severe threat to mangrove cells. But what exactly are ROS? They are oxygen-containing radicals capable of independent existence with one or more unpaired electrons. Turning our attention to the significance of the Sundarban mangrove ecosystem, it is the world's largest mangrove ecosystem, named after the species Heritaria forms known as Sundari in Bengali. Located on the delta of the Ganges, Brahmaputra, and Meghna rivers on the Bay of Bengal, spanning both India and Bangladesh, this ecosystem is the world's largest delta. It has been designated as Biosphere Reserve, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and a wetland of international importance under the Ramsar Convention. The Sundarbans hold immense ecological importance as it is an extremely rich ecosystem in terms of biodiversity, home to species such as Bengal tigers and Gangetic dolphins. Additionally, the mangrove ecosystem plays a crucial role in mitigating climate change through carbon sequestration and reducing the fury of cyclonic storms while preventing erosion due to tidal action. Millions of people depend on the Sundarbans for their livelihood and sustenance through fishing and other activities. In light of the threat posed by air pollution, recommendations have been made to reduce the impact. These include promoting solar and wind energy, transitioning to electric transportation, and subsidizing LPG. Additionally, regulating tourism, banning diesel generators, imposing restrictions on carbon-emitting industries, regulating brick kilns, and implementing land use regulations are critical steps that need to be taken. The findings of the study conducted by Bose Institute and IIT Kanpur serve as a wake-up call, highlighting the urgent need for collective action to mitigate air pollution and protect this invaluable national heritage for generations to come.
Moving on to our next news, the Indian Council of Medical Research has released 17 dietary guidelines for Indians. These guidelines focus on a food-based approach, recommending the appropriate amount of nutrients that should be consumed through food to ensure a well-rounded diet. According to the DGIs, a balanced diet should comprise no more than 45% of calories from cereals and millets, up to 15% of calories from pulses, beans, and meat, and the remaining calories should come from nuts, vegetables, fruits, and milk. This dietary composition aims to provide a holistic nutritional profile. Now let us have a look at the needs for these guidelines. India faces a dual burden of malnutrition, with a significant proportion of children suffering from impaired nutritional status, leading to both undernutrition and overweight or obesity. Additionally, estimates suggest that an alarming 56.4% of the total disease burden in India is attributed to unhealthy diets. Furthermore, changing dietary preferences driven by aggressive advertising and marketing of unhealthy, highly processed, high-fat, sugar, and salt foods contribute to long-term health issues, including an increase in non-communicable diseases. The key highlights of the DGIs include recommendations to choose a variety of oilseeds, nuts, nutri-cereals, and legumes to meet daily needs for fats and essential fatty acids. Moreover, the guidelines emphasize the importance of reading food labels to make informed and healthy food choices, minimizing the consumption of HFSS and ultra-processed foods, and promoting physical activity and regular exercise for overall physical and mental well-being. In line with these guidelines, various initiatives have been undertaken in India to promote nutritional security. These include Integrated Child Development Services Scheme, launched in the year 1975, the Food Safety and Standards Packaging and Labelling Regulations 2011 introduced by the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, and the Pradhan Mantri Poshan Shakti Nirman or PM Poshan program under the National Food Security Act 2013. Additionally, the My Plate for the Day initiative by the National Institution of Nutrition aims to provide dietary diversity and promote healthy eating habits. In conclusion, the release of the dietary guidelines for Indians by ICMR represents a comprehensive effort to address the dual burden of malnutrition and promote healthy eating habits among the Indian population.
Moving on to the next news. A report on international forest governance has been released. The report titled International Forest Governance, a critical review of the trends, drawbacks and new approaches is the first global synthesis report on the IFG since 2010, summarizing the most significant developments in this domain after 2010. Notably, this report has been released against the backdrop of the 19th session of the UN Forum on Forests. Before delving into the report's findings, let's briefly understand what International Forest Governance or IFG entails. IFG comprises the policy, legal and institutional frameworks for international decision-making on forests. Its stakeholders include key institutions like the UNFF, a functional commission of the UN Economic and Social Council with universal membership, and the Collaborative Partnership on Forest formed to support the work of the UNFF. Additionally, forest-related international conventions such as the Convention on Biological Diversity and the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora play a role in IFG. Regional agreements like the Amazon Cooperation Treaty are also part of this framework. Now let's delve into the key concerns raised in the report. First, there is limited success in reducing deforestation. Despite efforts, the rate of deforestation stands at about 10 million hectares per year as of 2020, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. Secondly, the IFG has become more crowded and fragmented than ever due to the proliferation of new actors and instruments. Next, there is increasing urgency of the climate crisis that has influenced the commodification of forests for their carbon sequestration potential. This has led to the rise of new markets for carbon and biodiversity that often focus on short-term economic gains over long-term sustainability and justice, a phenomenon referred to as climatization of forests. And lastly, the report highlights the limited role of community-led and philanthropic financing mechanisms in IFG. To address these concerns, the report recommends setting prices on environmental and social externalities, recognizing and managing public goods, and establishing alternative funding schemes and a polycentric governance approach in an interdependent system. It is evident that IFG faces significant challenges and concerted efforts are needed to ensure effective governance and sustainable management of our forests, which plays a crucial role in combating climate change and preserving biodiversity.
The place in news for today is Cambodia with its capital, Phnom Penh. It is in news recently as Cambodia formally accepted the agreement on the fisheries subsidies. Talking about its political features, it is located on the Indo-Chinese mainland on Southeast Asia. Furthermore, it shares its land borders with Thailand to the west and northwest, Laos to the northeast and Vietnam to its southeast. It shares its maritime boundary with the Gulf of Thailand to its southwest. Talking about its geographical features, major mountain range Dang Rik, its highest point is the Mount Oral. Its major river is the Mekong River, that is the longest in Southeast Asia. Moreover, lake, the Tonle Sap is the largest freshwater lake in Southeast Asia.
As we conclude today's main news, let's have a look at some quick updates. Researchers have highlighted concerns related to dead bots. Dead bots are AI chatbots that simulate the language patterns and personality traits of the dead using the digital footprints they leave behind. Malaysia plans to gift orangutans to major palm oil importing nations with the aim to boost its credentials as a conserver of biodiversity. Orangutans are great apes native to Sumatra and Borneo in Southeast Asia. Kerala banned the use of oleander flowers in temple offerings after the death of 2 women due to the accidental poisoning from the flower. Oleander flowers is rapidly growing evergreen rounded shrub or small tree native to Europe and Asia. Pirates' attack in Gulf of Aden raises concern. Gulf of Aden is a deep water basin that forms a natural sea link between the Red Sea and the Arabian Sea. It is named after the port of Aden. New Space India Limited seeks participation of private partners to manufacture rocket LVM-3. LVM-3 or Fat Boy is the new heavy lift launch vehicle of ISRO for achieving a 4,000 kg spacecraft launching capability to GTO. It is a 3-stage launch vehicle. Global tech giant Apple has unveiled the M4 chip, which is a 16-core neural engine termed as Neural Processing Unit. NPU is a dedicated processor designed specifically for accelerating neural network processes. Japan and the US are collaborating on a hypersonic missile intercepting system called Glide Phase Interceptor Project. GPI project launches modified missiles from the US Navy surface warships aimed at intercepting hypersonic weapons during their most vulnerable glide phase. Indian Army and Navy will receive Hermes 900, also known as Drishti 10 drones, to boost their surveillance capabilities. Hermes 900 is a next-generation multi-role, medium-altitude, long-endurance unmanned aerial system. Before we wrap up today's bulletin, it's time to put your knowledge to test in today's segment of Test Your Learning. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this edition of News Today engaging. For the solutions to today's quiz and to access the PDF version of News Today, remember to visit the provided links in the description below.